Sunday morning cold, eyes on the score, touchdown dance ball, craving for more. Friends are calling, trades are on fire. Rookies falling, championship desire. Fantasy football fever, chasing the dream. Top of the leaderboard, we're the winning team.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Healers Program. I'm your host, Dustin Brown, and with me today is the returning
You're a wizard, Harry.
wizard himself, Colten Palmer.
How's it going, guys? I've got a house full of sick kids, which is why I wasn't on last week's episode. Three sick kids, 3 and under. My wife and I were about to go insane last week, and so I was just ready for any amount of silence, and it was just good. I think on Sunday night we got them all down for bed, and I think we just sat in silence, did nothing, just darkness and silence, and it was wonderful.
Have any healing potions laying around? Any healing spells?
You know, I really could have used some Felix Felicis and just had some good luck on our side, but alas, it was not that way. Someone must have brewed up a wrong potion for us. The mistakes were deadly.
On today's episode, we're going to be reviewing the Wizarding World rookie draft that we just had on Harry Potter's birthday, July 31st. And Colten this is his second year in this league. Last year, if you remember, he was Dumpeldore himself. He was dumping and making changes and trades and was really trying to make some moves and to make his push. How are you feeling after this rookie draft?
Honestly, after this, I was so excited after this rookie draft. I feel like I did a pretty good job of just starting up this rebuild. I mean, it was an absolute teardown. The team I took over they were aging. They were a middle of the pack kind of team. They were just kind of stuck there with this aging group of players that I didn't really see. You know, I had a decision to make whether it was going to be, hey, do we add on to this old man group and try to make a push, or do we just tear it down to the nubs and completely rebuild? And you know, there was enough people I saw in this league that I was like, I don't stand a chance of competing even with these few old guys. So I was like, you know, let's just tear this thing down to the nubs, make it my own. And so, you know, I built up a lot of picks and made quite a few trades to just make stuff happen. And after this draft, man, I feel good about the rebuild. The rebuild is on. I love a good rebuild.
Definitely makes it more exciting and more interesting. And what's interesting about this league is it's a best ball league. And so, which means that it's going to take your best players from your entire roster, active and bench, and they're going to be slotted in to the active roster. So it makes making a rebuild a little bit more challenging because you don't really want to win your matchups, but you still want to get the value and the players, and in your case, the youth, in order to continue to build for the future.
Yeah, I mean, I've never played in the best ball format, so when you came to me with this one, I was like, I don't know if I can join any more leagues, but you said best ball, and I'm like, well, I don't even have to set the lineup. This is great. makes joining extra leagues easier, a lot easier.
It's definitely one of my favorite leagues now. Again, don't have to set the lineup every week. You do have to be available to look up the waivers because you definitely want to churn and burn that waiver wire. I am the 3-time Tri-Wizard champion, and I would love to go for a 4th, but we'll see. There's a lot of competitive rosters, especially after this rookie draft.
Yeah, you did what Mahomes and the Chiefs couldn't. You three-peated. Everybody was rooting for your downfall and still is, but alas, you are still up top.
Yeah. Well, if we just rewind just a second. Back to the playoffs of this past year, I had an opportunity with this league. It has an interesting setting that you can use a port key if you're the number 1 seed, or if you're the number 3 seed in the first playoffs, whoever has the highest seed gets to use a port key, and they can play whoever they want that's remaining in the playoffs. And I ended up matching up with using the port key as the first seed to match up with the second seed. And if you recall, back in the playoffs of that year, Mahomes had a little bit of an injury. He was a little bit nicked up. I thought, well, we'll see kind of what happens. So I ended up matching with Jason's team. Again, he was the 2 seed, thinking that maybe he would have like the lowest in points. Well, I was not correct in that he was actually the second highest, but I was the first highest. So I ended up beating him out. And if I would have matched up with him in the finals, he would have beat me, and he would have beat me handily. So I think Jason's going to be out for blood this year.
He's coming for your throat, man. He's coming for it.
So it was very unforeseen circumstances, and it definitely makes the league fun when you can kind of have different rules and different regulations and things like that to make it really interesting. But you got to know the rules.
Yeah, absolutely. That was one of my big things with all the leagues that I run and I'm in. Whenever I create a new league, I always like to tweak it just a little bit more. I like to make just something different to add a twist, because I play with a lot of the same guys. I mean, there's other people sprinkled in here and there, but I really like to have my leagues active. So I know, like, I have a certain group of guys that I can almost guarantee that they're going to keep it active and keep it fun. So I like to just tweak just little things. Like, we have 2 leagues now because I really like this one, and that's the return yards. Man, it's just, I was just discussing it with a couple guys last night, and they're just like, "Why this league has return yards?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, you can run the ball back 60 yards, but you get tackled on the 1-yard line and you get nothing." I'm like, they deserve some points for that. They put in some big effort. They they deserve it. And I was like, they're both Bears fans, and so I was telling them, I'm like, could you imagine if you would have drafted Devin Hester in fantasy football actually with this rule? And they're like, that would have been the greatest moment of my life. They're like, I would have loved every second. I'm like, that's what I'm saying.
How would you know when to play him, though, as far as like a lineup league? You wouldn't feel very good about that at all. But one guy you would have felt good about was Travion Henderson. Did you see him run back a 100-yard touchdown
incredible
from the kick return?
The opening kickoff just takes it back. All my Travion Henderson shares just made me feel very warm right in that moment.
Absolutely. I actually started another league this year, and I'm doing it's a redraft, and it's a guillotine league, and I ended up naming it "Don't Fear the Reaper." And if for those out there that don't have the understanding of what a guillotine league is basically each week the weakest team, so the lowest scoring team, ends up getting knocked out. So all of their players end up going to the waivers. And then it's kind of a fight for yourself to try and see, like, when are you using your fab money in order to buy such players in order to continue to try and get to the end of that 16 or 17 week season.
That does sound like a blast. It really does. My question is, though, the number one or the first team that gets knocked out, say they have Jamar Chase. Does everybody just dump all 100 fab or however much, you just dump all the fab bucks on Chase? Who gets them? Like, how does that work? If everyone's dumping 100, is it the first one to the race? Is it like the worst team?
I suspect it's the first one that goes for it. If everyone puts 1,000 on them, we got 1,000 fab for the season. But you have to still be strategic. Like, if you're going to put all of your fab into Chase, that's one player. Each week, another team falls out. Another team falls out. So you've got all these starters from all these teams that continue to fall out. And if you don't have any fab at the end, and let's say Chase gets injured, you got all your eggs in one basket.
Wow.
So there's a lot of strategy involved in this guillotine league. At some point, maybe next year, instead of the guillotine league, I may do a vampire league. And with that, basically, you have 10 or I like 12 team leagues. I think that's more fun and more competitive. But so it could be like randomized, and the player that's number 12, they don't draft at all. And so after the draft, they pick up whoever's remaining. And then each week they have the first say of who the waivers they want. And if the vampire ends up beating you, they get to take one of your players from your roster and put it on theirs.
Oh man, that sounds tough. That sounds real tough.
One league, it sounds like everybody would want to be the vampire, though.
Right? You're just hoping to be the vampire at that point, because then you're just playing regular, but the vampire's just struggling. That'd be fun.
There's a lot of different ways to play fantasy football. As you said, trying to make each league a little bit different. And I've never played in a guillotine league. I want to do it this year, aiming for 16 teams, so that way we can play most of the season. You can do 18, but let's face it, like week 18 really is kind of a crapshoot of who's playing, who's not playing. So I really want no part of it. So I'm aiming for the 16 team league instead.
Very nice.
And we're doing like, and it's a really cheap league, and we're doing like a winner takes all.
Nice.
So something different.
See, there's
But
many
Colten,
ways
we've
to
got.
play fantasy.
Say again.
I said there's many ways to play fantasy. Everybody thinks it's got to be one specific way, or you got to play PPR or half PPR or just whatever. But just make it fun. That's what we're here for. That's why we do this. It's fun.
Exactly. Colten, we got a lot to get through, so let's get through the news here, and then let's review this draft. Allen signs a 1-year deal with the Chargers. What do you feel that this does to Ladd McConkey and your boy Trey Harris?
I sent you a text as soon as this news broke. You and I were texting, and I said, I hate it. I hate everything about it. I love it because I have Keenan Allen on one of my teams that is trying to win. Last year, I would have won if Jalen Hurts wouldn't have gotten hurt in that first quarter there. So I would have won it all, finally. And I've been pushing for this league. And I have Keenan Allen in that league. And so for that one specific league, I'm so happy because I don't have Ladd McConkey or Trey Harris or anything like that. And so I think it's great for Keenan Allen, and I think he's going to dominate. I don't think this means anything for Ladd McConkey. I still think we're going to see these two kind of shine this year. They play a similar style. They're both the guys that they catch a lot of balls. They run the intermediate stuff. But I think that's what this team is wanting to look for, is the guys that can catch the ball in the intermediate, run the ball, establish the run, then do some quick intermediate or shorter passes. I think both Keenan Allen and Ladd McConkey can eat, especially with a quarterback like Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert's an incredible quarterback, and I think he's going to allow these two to work. My Trey Harris shares, though, gosh, it just makes me so sad. I mean, he's going to be playing the X, I think. Apparently, there's been news about Quentin Johnston looking good. The stupid training hype, looking good. So I don't know, man. I love Trey Harris, and I think he can put it all together. But we might be sitting on him for another year until we see him be productive. So if you have your Trey Harris and you've got a taxi squad, I'd say go ahead and just let him ride out on that taxi squad this year. And if he pops off, that's going to be awesome. You can take him off your taxi. But I have a feeling we're going to be saying, Trey Harris for next year.
The biggest winner is Justin Herbert with that deal. But who's a loser with the next coming news is actually Justin Herbert. And that news is Rashawn Slater, their left tackle for the Chargers. He tore his patellar tendon, and he's going to be out for the entire 2025 season. It's a devastating injury. It's a tough one to rehab. Fortunately for him, it's at the beginning of the season, so he'll more than likely be back next year, but it's going to be a lot of rehab for them to work through. They have another excellent tackle, their right tackle, Joe Alt. He was drafted number 5, I believe, overall last year, and he's just going to slide over to the left tackle spot. And now the weak link is actually going to be the right tackle slot instead of the left. Got to protect that blind side. Speaking of blind side, I ended up seeing a meme yesterday by our friend Zach, Tier 1 quarterback, and it said about the movie that's going to be released here soon, and it's the Blind Side 2, starring Najee Harris, and he has he has a patch over his eye.
That's incredible. I did not see that yet.
Yeah, so shout out to tier 1 quarterback. Jake Ferguson, tight end for the Cowboys. He signs a 4-year extension worth $52 million.
I mean, it's it's news. I think they like him. He does fine, and he is a good tight end for an NFL team. I think he's a better tight end for NFL than he is fantasy. Fantasy relevance. I think he just remains where he was. You know, you didn't hate him, but you're not excited to have him on your team. So
we didn't seem to like him at all. Remember, wasn't it PFF that had him as like tight end 13?
10. They had him like 10.
10? Yeah, that was way too high. Sticking with the Cowboys, Tyler Guyton, the Cowboys offensive tackle. They had thought he had an ACL injury, but it turns out that he actually had a fractured bone. So that'll be more of a 4 to 6 week out versus an entire season-ending injury. So they lucked out there with Tyler Guyton on their offensive line. But I think that pushes them to throw more, don't you think? It sounds like their camp for the running backs just sounds terrible. I'm still waiting for them to trade for like a Travis Etienne or some other running back that just, it seems like the Jaguars they've got a riches with the running back position. It just feels like they're just going to be taking him into the season, in my opinion. They're not going to go into the season with Javonte Williams, are they? Miles Sanders and
Jerry Jones he's my new enemy. He needs fired. That's going to be the first head coach fired. Cowboys fans are coming for Jerry Jones's head. It's coming. He just doesn't know how to run this team. He's running into the ground. And now, I mean, I don't know if this is your next bit of news, but Michael Parsons even wants out. He requested the trade.
I think this is all fake news. He's just going to get a contract at the end of the preseason, just like the Cowboys do every year, Colten.
I mean, but that's what I'm saying, though. Why not just, if you're going to do it, you might as well just do it now. Get him out there. I mean, I think he's still reporting to training camp and doing the right thing. But still, just freaking do it. You're going to do it anyways. They're doing some sketchy stuff. They don't want his agent present while they're trying to talk. I'm like, just stop. Just pay the players and try to win. But Jerry Jones is like, oh, I want to win. I don't want to give up any money.
Jerry says there's a contract out there, but back in the day when I ended up having to get the Cowboys, we just did a handshake and then we figured out the details afterwards. We just kind of spit in each other's hands, shook thy hand, and that's how we got it done. Now we got him this paperwork and he's not signing it.
Yeah, he just needs to get the heck out and just own the team, man. Don't be part of it. That's great that you're an owner. Just own it. Don't stop these owners that meddle too much, that don't know what they're doing. It's just insane to me, man. It really is, because this team has potential. They've got a lot of stars and studs on this team, and it's never going to happen because Jerry Jones is on in there putting the frickin' sun, just blasting their players' faces.
Let's stay in the same division. Speaking of trade requests, Terry McLaurin is asking for a trade request from the Washington Commanders. Do you feel like this is news, or is this just another fluff piece?
I feel like it's a combination of the two, to be honest. I feel like it's him saying, I'm standing my ground. He's getting to be he's 30 this year, I believe. So they don't want to hand a 30-year-old a big contract extension. But, they need him for their young quarterback. They still, they've created quite the relationship. But I don't blame Terry McLaurin. He's 30 years old. And, no team is going to give him the bag, especially if he gets injured or something this year. He's out for himself. I get it. But he wants to remain with the team. But he's like, just give me what I deserve after last year. He's like, I took your rookie quarterback that nobody everybody thought he had massive potential and thought he would be good. But Terry McLaurin's like, I took this guy and I played my best with him. We have a connection. You just pay me. And the Commanders just aren't giving it up. Once again, man, it's just football teams getting in their own way. I understand there's a money thing and they've got to, think of their future and all that. But my goodness, sometimes you just got to buck up and pay the guy.
Touchdown machine, so there's going to be some variance there. Like to repeat as many touchdowns as he had just last year is going to be a challenge. But that being said, they didn't really bring anybody else in at the wide receiver position. Oh, that's true. I take that back. Debo is going to be a big part of this offense, and whether that's running the ball or whether that's catching the ball. But last year, everybody was so down on Debo because he was like the fat Debo, and he just wasn't getting it done for the 49ers.
Yeah.
And now it sounds like he's a little bit more trim, and it sounds like he is making a connection with Daniels.
I mean, maybe that's what they're banking on, is they're trying to use that as a negotiation piece. Like, oh, we have Debo Samuel, we might not need you. Well, that's a lie. I mean, he's going to need multiple weapons. Zach Ertz at some point has to fall off the wagon. At some point. This has to happen.
Sticking with the same division, different team, the Philadelphia Eagles. A.J. Brown is out with a hamstring injury, and then they also have Devonta Smith with a back tightness problem. So their top two wide receivers are injured. But let's face it, Saquon Barkley is what this team is running through, and they are going to have all preseason to get healthy.
Oh, man, I feel so bad about this. So my brother he's a new Dynasty player. He's in the 1 league with me that started up last year. Someone approached to him and they said, hey, I'll give you, it was A.J. Brown and like a third for Kyren Williams. This guy needs running backs on his team for Kyren Williams. And my brother and I were talking, and I'm going to ruin probably some breaking news. Not breaking news, but some of the news you had on the list at some point.
Let's hear it.
But
you're on the precipice.
I'm right there. But anyways, I told my brother, I was like, I would much rather have, his team is aging. It's old. He was trying to make a push last year, so he acquired a bunch of old guys and got rid of some picks. And now he's like, I don't know what to do. He's like, I think it's time to rebuild. I'm like, he's like, but I don't want to get rid of Kyren. He's still young. I'm like, and this was before Kyren Williams had a 3-year, $33 million contract extension. I'm saying, the Rams may not even sign him. He could be on a different team. He could get hurt, and then he doesn't get anything. I'm like, you have AJ. You could get AJ Brown, who's an amazing, phenomenal wide receiver, who plays longer in the NFL. They're less prone to injury. And he makes the trade. He acquires AJ Brown in a third, gives up Kyren. And I still like that trade. No sooner than 3 days later, Kyren gets a contract. AJ Brown goes down with a hamstring. I'm sorry, man. Just don't listen to me anymore. I apparently just ruin everything I touch. I'm like the opposite of King Midas.
Turning things to dust.
Oh, man.
So a little bit of Minnesota news. Jordan Addison has a 3-game suspension, which is what we were anticipating. Let's face it.
Yeah.
But it's not going to matter because J.J. McCarthy doesn't throw the ball. Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater, he is now signed with the Bucks. He's had quite an interesting career with Teddy Two Gloves.
Did you see an interview with him? So good old
specific. I know when he was working with the high school team, he was giving up a lot of money in order to feed kids that weren't getting fed, and then he got backlash for it because the coaches aren't supposed to be giving all this money and incentive and things like that to the kids, but he was just trying to provide for these kids.
Yeah, that is fantastic. But I was referring to the news that he had no idea who Emeka Egbuka was. He said he was out there on the practice field, and they're like, he said he was standing there watching this guy run routes and catch balls. What? Who is this guy? He's big, he's fast. Wow, that's incredible. This guy looks really good. Where'd we get him from? They're like, only a first-round draft pick for us.
He was too busy winning a championship for his high school team.
He's just not interested in the NFL draft. Had no idea who he was.
So I think the rest of the news we can kind of cover as we're going through.
Yeah.
But we did have some football games that were played here these last couple days. Do you want to speak about any of those games and what you've seen before we move on to our Wizarding World Dynasty Draft?
Are you asking if I want to talk about Anthony Richardson and how he's cooked? Just done for.
What happened to Anthony Richardson on Thursday?
Dislocated right pinky finger.
Tea time! Tea time! It was nasty.
This dude is like just made of glass. I don't understand. I just don't get it. Every time he's out there.
Somebody missed an assignment. I mean, he came full on like the train is coming. Choo choo! Boom!
I mean, I get it,
Completely
but
knocked him
Anthony
out.
Richardson he's a big dude. Like, how do you keep
Ankle
him?
wasn't his shoulder. I thought it was his shoulder when the news first came out because it said upper body injury.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Daniel Jones looked like he was making some moves out there too. I mean, the whole thing was literally just cooked up to be bye-bye Anthony Richardson. Like, it was just not good. Job's over. I tried to trade last night, just hoping and praying. I sent Anthony Richardson for Bryce Young straight up. It got rejected. Just shut down. No second about it.
Sad.
I just sent him a bunch of crying faces, and all he sent back was there, little buddy."
Oh man! And then Shadur Sanders, he gets to play 3 quarters last night with Kenny Pickett and Gabriel having hamstring injuries, Flacco being old, and then Huntley just getting into camp and being a camp body. So we got to see 3 quarters of Shadur, and he actually looked decent. He looked fine. I will say, if you were watching the game, though, like there was a lot of occasions where he looked kind of pouty on the sidelines, especially when things weren't rolling his way. And so it's going to be peaks and valleys with this guy all season long.
I mean, yeah, he showed a lot of the potential that he had. You know, he was definitely out there to prove something to, you know, that he deserves to be in the NFL, that he didn't deserve to drop to the 5th round. I mean, he's got a lot to prove. So he is going out there and he's doing the right thing. He's working his butt off. You know, the interviews, they asked him how he was feeling and doing, and he was like, you know, I felt like I could have been better. So he's saying the right things. Maybe that's the show, you know, because he knows he messed up. But he looked good. You know, he had flashes of greatness. You know, he made a couple mistakes, but I mean, every single quarterback does. It's no big deal. But he definitely showed the potential. And I feel like Shadur Sanders' stocks just went up massively, like absolutely insane. I have a draft tomorrow, and I've been getting Shadur in like super flex leagues, like in the third, late. Oh yeah, in the third. I've gotten him 3-1 multiple times now, and I feel like that's just there's no chance of that happening for tomorrow's draft. So I feel like stocks are going up.
What's the highest you'd pay for him as in a rookie draft now, coming off of this again preseason game?
I would still throw a mid-second. I mean,
That's where my head was at, was right around that 205 range.
Yeah, I would go that high. I would, depending on
Maybe
how much.
2-3 if you're desperate.
Yeah, if I'm feeling desperate, I'd go, yeah, up to 203, 202. There's still some guys at that beginning of the first. I still love Trey Harris, man. I still love him. But I would definitely be throwing that at him.
Well, now he drops down a little bit, and now there's going to be a value trap there with Trey Harris. So now instead of paying a 201, 202, maybe 203 for Trey Harris, you might be able to get him around that 206, 207 range.
Yeah. Yeah, but I feel like it's still time to sit and hold on Sanders. The problem, he did add a little bit of yardage to the rushing. He had 19 yards rushing last night. You know, he showed that he had some athletic ability for your team. Like, he saw some holes, and he wasn't afraid to run.
I also saw him run for his life and run backwards a number of times and kind of squiggly line his way to losing only 2 yards instead of losing like 15.
I did see that play. I know exactly what play you're talking about.
There was a couple of those plays, Colten. There was a couple of those. So, yeah. I mean, this is a guy that he was sacked the most from this draft class just 1 year ago in college.
Yeah, he wasn't wrong when he said his offensive line was terrible, but yeah, you can't say that. But, you know, he's definitely
out there yelling at some of his offensive line when just last night too. So
well,
he was vocal to his team.
I mean, that's what a leader needs to do. That's true. It just got to do it in the right way. So, I mean, you do have to get on your guys. That's correct. Don't be afraid to be a leader, but you got to just do it tactfully in the right way. So, I think there's a future for him, though. I really do.
All right, let's get into the Wizarding World. In this Wizarding World rookie draft, I'm your host, Headmaster D, and with me is Dumpeldore himself. We're going to start this rookie draft off with the 101. And with the 101, Mr. Dumpeldore, you're up. And who do you decide right here? It's a tough decision. Tough.
Oh man, toughest decision. Actually, it was a difficult decision for me, truly. I talked about it last time I was in the pod, so 2 weeks ago. I have the 101 in a couple of different leagues, and I'm torn. I really do. I love Amari and Hampton, but I mean, I can't give up Ashton Genty. So when everything was said and done, staring down Ashton Genty and picking a different running back, I just couldn't do it. So easily 101 was Ashton Genty after a slight debate in my own head, but ultimately,
there's Twitter going around saying he's ass Genty now because he had negative rushing yards in his debut. Are you concerned?
3 carries, -1 rushing yard. I'm not super concerned at all. Honestly, it's the preseason. They're just out there doing stuff. I mean,
being trolls.
Yeah, there's 0% chance that makes me worried at all.
At the 102, then goes Hampton. Again, I think there is a question between Hampton and Genty there at the 101 spot. I remember I had Hampton as the number 1 rookie coming out of the draft or pre-draft process, and you had Genty as your pre-draft running back. Genty goes in the first round to the Raiders, while Hampton gets taken with the LA Chargers, with people having a little more concerns because Najee Harris, the blindside star, being present. Now, how do you feel about Hampton now?
I love Hampton. I feel like I've made that ridiculously clear that I absolutely love Hampton. I think he's going to be a star. I say never believe the training camp hype, but there has been a lot of buzz on him as well. Najee is going to come back. He's still going to get some work. They're not going to run this guy into the ground year one. But like I said, I put it as my hot take. Omari and Hampton, the number 1 running back going into next year, because I think he's gonna start blowing up and making some noise, and he's a big-bodied guy that can handle a heavy workload, and I think it's going to work out for this Chargers offense. And this Charger offense is only going to get better, I think. I think we're going to see it really improve this year, and it's going to start blowing up, and you're going to want Hampton on your team.
So I think Biggie C had the best draft that I've seen him draft now, with going into the 4th year. Biggie C is one of the lower tiered teams in the Wizarding World, and he's trying to rebuild this roster from where it started. And he goes with Henderson here at the 1-3 spot, which I thought was a fantastic pick for his roster. And then we just saw him just house it. 100 yards for a touchdown, and that with special teams. Oh, baby. I think Henderson, the sky's the limit.
I love Henderson. I was torn between him and Judkins pre-draft, but after watching him just blow up last night, I think I made the right choice when I put Henderson ahead.
Yeah, I had Henderson in most of my leagues ahead, and then that being said, in the Medusa League, I had the 102 and the 104, and I ended up going with Ward and Judkins, and I was trying to diversify with Judkins, and that's looking like that's the wrong decision there.
Yeah, man, it's tough out
there. Not looking pretty.
Especially with no news still. No news of him showing up, no news of the court stuff. There was one sliver of information, I think it was maybe last week, that Kevin Stefanski says they plan on him showing up for training camp. They'll have him on the team by then, but nothing since.
No, there was some news. The Judkins had an option of extending and taking a long process in order to get through the court system, and he chose the long one. So there's a high probability that Judkins is not going to play in the year 2025, with some people saying that maybe he just goes back and goes back into the draft or goes back to college. He still has a year of eligibility left.
That'd be just crazy, man.
There's a lot of speculation out there with Judkins.
Yeah, just crazy for someone that was so highly valued, and now everybody loved him for their team and fantasy, especially for the Cleveland Browns, who thought they were getting their Nick Chubb replacement in this guy, and now it's just, man, it's crumbling quickly.
Biggie C, he gets to double tap. So he went with Henderson at 1-3, and then he goes with Ward at the 1-4 spot, drafting the number one quarterback available for this year in 2025.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have a lot of quarterbacks on his roster, so that's a pretty easy pick and a super flex best ball option. So
Jaspers, he takes the dart with Travis Hunter. He drafts Hunter over McMillan. McMillan gets taken just one pick later. And now if you're going back into your rookie drafts and you have one coming up here and you have to decide between Hunter and McMillan, how do you decide?
I'm taking what the Jaguars put as their unofficial depth chart release, and that is he is the wide receiver 2, but like the cornerback 5. So I believe they're going to use him more as a wide receiver and just spot him in at corner on the defensive side of the ball, whenever they need to. But I think he's going to be a full-time wide receiver, especially with that wide receiver room. It's him and BTJ. I mean, nobody else. I think they did draft him to be the wide receiver. So I think they're going to keep him there because they need help there more than I think they do on defense.
Counterpoint here, Colten. McMillan is the wide receiver 1, though, for the Panthers, and he's definitely going to be on the field the entire time, while Hunter is the wide receiver 2, and we're still kind of skeptical on like how much playing time he's going to play offense and defense. How does that move your decision?
It doesn't. I think Travis Hunter is the better wide receiver. I think he runs crisper routes. I think he has better hands. I didn't watch a whole lot of the Carolina game yesterday.
I did. It was awful.
I watched a couple of like the highlights, and I saw McMillan get shut down by some of the corners. It looks like there was a couple.
They were trying to force feed him, Colten. They were trying to force feed McMillan, and he caught a contested ball on the sidelines, and like, oh man, this guy's gonna be great, and then you didn't hear from him again.
Right, and I heard one thing of it blow up, so I went I heard "Welcome to the NFL, McMillan." Like, it looked awesome, and then I went and watched a couple of plays. I'm like, he just got shut down by some of these corners. Like, he wasn't getting separation. So we could be looking at, Keon Coleman, just nothing but a contested catch guy, which works in the NFL for some people, but it doesn't work that great for fantasy.
No, I agree 100%. I mean, you've heard me say it many times that McMillan is N'Keal Harry. And when I saw him make that catch on the sidelines, and it was contested, it definitely was contested, I'm like, Bryce Young isn't going to be able to throw that ball consistently to him in a contested format. First off, he's going to have a hard time viewing over the offensive line. And secondly, he's not going to be just chucking it up because they've taught him to play conservative, and he's going to be playing closer to the line of scrimmage. And I'm just thinking, okay, here comes the hype. I remember N'Keal Harry was hyped in the preseason, and then he wasn't to be seen during the regular season, and he just kind of faded into fantasy lore.
I don't know if that's what will happen to this guy. I mean, it won't be the full N'Keal Harry experience, but I don't think he's going to be great like everyone thought. I think he'll be. I think he's going to take the same path as Keon Coleman. That's my personal thought process. He's going to be a utility guy that makes some plays here and there, and everyone's like, wow, because I think he does. I don't think he's a terrible wide receiver that just isn't going to make it. I just don't think he's going to be what everyone wants him to be.
I think that's a good take, Colten. Him as Keon Colten, a more expensive Keon Colten, may I add, because he's getting drafted in the beginning of the first round. Keon Coleman.
You said
Keon Colten.
You said Keon Colten.
Freudian slip.
I think we have the title of this episode.
Keon Colten. Yeah, Keon Colten. He was definitely drafted at the end of the first round, beginning of the second in many of your leagues versus McMillan is. I've seen him drafted as early as like the 103, 104 in some rookie drafts.
He went 102 in one of my leagues. Brutal.
Poor fella. RJ Harvey gets drafted at the 1-7, and then just after him, Judkins at 1-8. Now, and let's just tie in even Johnson in there. So of these three, and Harvey, Judkins, and then we'll find out here that Johnson gets drafted at the 112. Of those three, how do you order those three in your fantasy rookie drafts?
For me, how I order them is Johnson, Harvey, Judkins with the news. Now, if Judkins would have stayed out of the trouble, it would have been Judkins, Johnson, Harvey. But with the news, I've got to move Judkins back, obviously. But honestly, I've got Johnson up higher than those other two because I see a huge potential in his future there with Pittsburgh. I like the landing spot. I do love Denver and everything. But it's a little bit grayer now with J.K. Dobbins. And J.K. Dobbins is currently listed as their running back one. I know unofficial depth chart doesn't mean that much, but, I mean, it doesn't mean nothing. He's listed as at least, like, the one. So you know he's going to get some playing time.
Yep. So I would have it Harvey, Johnson, and then Judkins. And that, in fact, I really like – I'm at a point now that I've have Harvey as my number 3, even over Henderson. But Henderson with his youth, I think, gives him just a little bit more of an edge in rookie drafts, especially if you're looking for future value. So it probably should be Henderson and then Harvey.
The run didn't change your mind last night.
But I love Harvey. Yeah, that special teams run, I think, boosted Henderson just that little bit.
Yeah, the stocks are through the roof.
And then finally, I was trying to trade up here around that 1.8, 1.9 range to see if I could potentially get Mbuka. I was trying to trade Waddle, and it didn't happen. But Emeka Mbuka ends up getting drafted at 1.9, and I think that's a fantastic value. Again, this is best ball, and he's looking phenomenal in camp. And Chris Godwin is not available right now, which, if you'd have been listening to the news from the get-go, it didn't sound like he was going to be available for the first couple games.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Godwin will come back and reprise his role, but he may not be the healthiest of Chris Godwin. So I think you'll see him take a lot more breaks than what he has in the past. You know, I could see these two interchanging quite a bit. And with it being a best ball league, maybe that it's Buka's week to kind of blow up and they play a little bit of a hot hand situation here. Maybe Chris Godwin's blown up one week, but Mbuka's blown up another. So I think it'll make it easier with it being best ball. I was really hoping that Mbuka would slide to me because I actually, in a league, we play whoever wins the loser's bracket gets the 113. You know, the last pick of the first round, we just added an extra pick. And I ended up winning the loser's bracket, got the 113, and I got Mbuka there. So, I mean, essentially, like, I got Mbuka at the 201, kind of, and then like a normal draft format, which was insane. I was super happy to see him slide, so I was hoping he would slide in this one because I got a couple picks coming up here that we'll talk about, but he did not, so, you know, but that's all right. Great pick there at the 109. I like Mbuka.
So we're gonna see here that Burden goes at the 110 to a Bears fan in Big C. I think that's going to be a fine pick there. I know that you probably wanted him there in those next two picks, but if we kind of reverse the clock back to the No Guts, No Glory draft, the draft that we drafted prior to the NFL draft. Brett Favre, the guy who drafted Mbuka, he had the 1.9, I had the 110, and it was kind of the same thought here, but he ended up going with Burden over Mbuka pre-draft, and then now after draft at the end of the summer, he kind of reversed it here. He said that he was trying to figure out who he wanted to listen to for the wide receiver one, whether it was me or Colten. And Colten, he's got your ears. So he's got ears on you. He went with Burden. I ended up getting Mbuka. Thank you very much in the No Guts, No Glory League. And this time he reversed the tide and ends up going with Mbuka.
Yeah, I mean, Burden here at the 110 though is just a little rich for my blood.
Would you have got him there at 111, 112?
So
If
we'll release that. I've got the 111, 112, and I wasn't even looking at him,
all
honestly.
right. So 111, 112, the draft is starting to fall to you. You're seeing Ibuka go. You're like, damn the luck, I didn't get him. Talk us through how you're making your picks here and your rebuild.
So essentially, I'm looking at just any amount of value to gain on this team. You know, I saw RJ Harvey come off the board, and then I saw Judkins go off the board, and I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, surely Caleb Johnson is falling off this board, you know, before it gets to me. So I was like, you know, maybe I'll get a Buka. Tyler Warren's still on the board, you know. I know a lot of people love Colston Loveland. So I was like, some of these players, I'm like, you know, big name players, I'm like, are still falling. So I'm like, this is great. I saw Ibuka come off and, you know, kind of bummed and everything. But I'm like, Caleb Johnson is going to go at the 110 here. I'm like, there's no way anyone's letting that man slip. So I'm like, well, I'll go tight end and then I'll start looking at wide receiver. Like I said, you know, I loved Luther Burden pre-draft. I don't love him on the Bears. All reports have been showing that the Bears offense is struggling right now. Struggling. I'm still a big Trey Harris fan. So I was sitting here looking, I was like, you know, maybe I'll go tight end and I'll get a wide receiver. You know, I'll just get the best one I think who's left. And I think that's Trey Harris. So that's what I was looking at here. Not even realizing what else I have. I've got 3 picks in a row here. So I was like, oh crap. And then he takes Luther Burden, and I'm just ecstatic. I was fist pumping at home. I was like, yeah, I was working from home that day, so I'm just going nuts. I think I made these 3 picks just right away, just bing, bang, boom. And I went Tyler Warren, getting a stud tight end that I think has massive potential. And, you know, Daniel Jones is going to be taking over this offense, and he's at least capable of carrying someone. And I trust it to be at least Tyler Warren to start develop. I then go after with an easy pick, Caleb Johnson. I was so happy he fell to me here. And then I have the 201 still. So I was like, why get Trey Harris too? And this was before Keenan Allen news broke, I believe. So
Still great pick.
still a great pick. Just bing, bang, boom, easy pick. I was just wiping my hands, super excited at home, just smiling, trying to get some work done.
I saw the picks drop, and all I could do was smile for you. But I do have a follow-up question. What if Johnson actually was drafted at the 1-8? Would Judkins have been one of those picks that you would have made?
I would have taken Judkins here. In a lot of my leagues, he's been falling around the 201 now. And that's like if I've had the 201, I think I got him in 202 in one of my leagues as well. So I've been taking the shot on him. He's still such a talented asset to have. I mean, maybe you do have to sit on him for a year, or you know, or if it never works out, I mean, you're taking shots in the dark in the second round anyways. Why not get someone that should be a first round talent, even though they're an idiot? You know, take the shot on him. So I would have still taken him there, and still been happy, but not as happy as getting Caleb Johnson that late.
So the pick is the pseudo wide receiver 1 for the Packers with Golden getting drafted at the 202. I know it really tugs on you there that you didn't get Golden. You didn't have an extra pick to get Golden.
Should have gotten 4 in a row to get Golden.
So right around this time frame, there was a trade that was made, and T-Mick and Tier 1 quarterback made a trade. T-Mick sent over Burrow, T. Higgins, and Isaiah Likely for the 204, the 205, Caleb Williams, and a 26 first. So with that being sent, he ends up having 4 picks in a row for T-Mick. And he goes, in really no particular order because he has all 4 picks, but it went Scattaboo, Jaden Higgins, and again, that was one that he traded for. Loveland was the other one that was traded for, and then also Jackson Dart at the 2-6. How do you feel like this trade went through? So again, it goes Burrow, Higgins, and Likely for Loveland, Jaden Higgins, Caleb Williams, and a 26 first.
I honestly, I could not bring myself to give up a Joe Burrow and T Higgins stack just to hand away like that in a best ball league. I know you're not the biggest fan of stacks, but I do love
I'm fine with I like stacks, just if they're played out right.
I couldn't give that up, man. That is a tier one stack to have and just absolutely dominant, especially like in a best ball format like this. My goodness, I mean, it would take so much to get that stack out of my hands, and that's fine and all. He gets Caleb Williams and a first round pick back, but I just don't think it was enough. I mean, getting a bunch of seconds to like line this up, you're taking shots at the second round here. I mean, the hit likelihood of these guys working out to be what that stack was is very low. I mean, you got some solid asset, like later asset and Colston Loveland there at the 2-5. That's some great, you know, that's some great value to get, but you also kind of created that value because you picked Scatterboo and Higgins there. So he could have gone at the 203, and now it's really not that big of a value because he went there rather than you just picking a couple guys ahead of his name. You had the picks, so it's not like you created your own false value in it. You're like, oh, I got him at the 205. I'm like, well, yeah, but someone could have taken him at the 203. So I feel like it's a little bit of false value, but I mean, nonetheless, it's good, but I just couldn't give up that stack.
I mean, is there that much of a teardrop between Joe Burrow and Caleb Williams, Dynasty value?
For me, there is. I mean, Joe Burrow he's knocking at the door at one of the greats. He just, they have
rushing upside.
No rushing upside, but they have to sling that ball left and right to stay into those games. Caleb Williams is proving that, man, their offense is still struggling, even with Ben Johnson coming aboard. He's learning a whole new offense this year. And, maybe he puts it together finally. Maybe he never does. We don't know still. It's still unknown. Joe Burrow, we know, is a phenomenal quarterback. So for me, I've got him in very separate tiers. And that's just my own preference. Maybe people are still hanging on to that. But Caleb Williams still has a lot to prove in my eyes.
At the 2-7, Tootin goes here. Then it goes Sanders. Then it goes Blue, Beck, Milrow, and Ferguson. Anything you want to touch on the back of the second round?
Yeah, I'll just touch on my two picks. I had the 211, 212.
Oh, sorry, I took that from you.
No, you're all right. A lot of quarterbacks were flying off the board. Ward, Dart, Sanders. I don't have another pick until the 305. You and I were talking about Milrow here or there. I've been seeing Milrow go a little bit higher, but I've seen him go a little bit later here and there. And so I just made the snap decision. I'm like, I want to take upside for this team, especially with it being best ball. I don't have to decide when to play him. If he
best
gets
ball rebuilder.
Yeah. If he gets
he's going to give you 0 points, but he's got the upside.
Right. So I was taking upside there. And I knew for a fact you were right behind me. So I know Ferguson was not making it to me at the 305. And so I'm like I said, I'm literally just taking shots on trying to get some value. And I think Ferguson was hanging on to the most value for me there. I didn't realize that Daniel Jones was still sitting on the board. I didn't know. I thought it was only rookies. So I had no idea. I wasn't looking for his name. I probably actually would have taken Daniel Jones with one of these two picks there, honestly, just to have him, and then try to trade him off later in the season to, for someone that needed some quarterback on their team. But I'm still happy getting Milrow and Ferguson here. I think those two guys hold a lot of potential in their value.
So right before you made your picks, I ended up having a trade that went through to get me to the 302 spot. And I traded away Matthew Stafford and Kareem Hunt for the 302, the 312, the 402, and a 26 second. So just kind of a lot of sporadic picks. And this was when there was a little bit, like a very tiny little bit of news about Stafford and his back, and they were really downplaying it. Now they're like, oh, now he's got this disc problem. He has an epidural, and yada, yada, yada. And it's looking like this was a pretty good trade for me. Now, as this is coming along, tier 1 quarterback Zach is messaging me, and he's like, oh, man, Terrence Ferguson's still on the board. He's coming around. You know, he might get to you there at the 302, only for you to draft him there at the 212. And then he also, right before you even took him at the 212, he trades in to that 301 spot. And I'll be honest, I wasn't really looking at Terrence Ferguson for my Dynasty best ball draft because I've got some pretty solid tight ends, Kittle, Ingram, and Strange. And you know how high I am on Strange this year too, and Kittle.
It's very strange.
And Ingram, all three.
Yeah.
So for my team build, I really wasn't looking for Ferguson, even though I love the Winter Soldier. I was looking for Jordan Mason, Minnesota Vikings RB2, and also Danny Dimes. And so here I am sitting at the 302, and I'm just waiting, just kind of salivating. And I think I was really leaning more towards Mason over Daniel Jones. But tier 1 quarterback Zach, he trades his 412 and the 404 to get to the 301, and he ultimately goes Jordan Mason right in front of me, and I'm just like, ends up sniping me there. But at the same time, he made the decision a lot easier for me, and then I ended up just going because I traded Stafford away. All right, I'll get Indiana Jones. For the Holy Grail one more time.
I think it was an easy pick getting Danny Dimes in the 3rd round. He's going to give value this year. And actually, funny thing here is tier 1 quarterback was messaging me on Sleeper saying, oh, here's your chance to take Ferguson from Dustin. And I'm like, well, I'm not taking him from Dustin. I also love Terrence Ferguson. I'm taking him for myself. But he's like, yep. And I'm taking Mason because I know that's the other guy that Dustin is funding. So,
collusion. There you go. Yeah, that's about right. But good for him and good for you. I'm just, it was a pretty fun draft. I started the draft with only like one pick, and that was my 310, which we'll get to that here shortly. And even at one time, I didn't have any picks at all because, again, I was making the playoff push, and it ended up working out for me. So to get Danny Dimes here at 312, I was pretty happy. And then at the 3-3 spot, we see Kyle Williams, a guy that a lot of times I'm seeing getting drafted in the middle to the back half of the second.
Yeah.
So there's some excellent value again for Big EC.
Getting value, man. Good for him.
Yep. And tier 1 quarterback Zach, he gets his guy, Fannin. And you know what guy that he wasn't really showcased at all yesterday with the Browns was Harold Fannin Jr.
Yeah.
They kept throwing baits out there at the tight end position. And Fannin was out there. He just wasn't getting targeted.
Yeah, I mean, we liked him both during the pre-draft process. But, yeah, I mean, he's not getting showcased. I'm not hearing any really, news, buzz, nothing. Nothing good, nothing bad, just kind of nothing. But, it's a developmental piece. You have Njoku there anyways right now. So, I mean, just someone to stash on your taxi, honestly, at this point, just to keep an eye on. I'm sitting here at the 305. And I'm sticking with my guns. I'm sticking with my word of what I said. I loved him pre-draft. I loved him. God, he was just such a fun player to watch there. I went Devin Neal because I'm just sticking with it. I think he has value. I liked his landing spot. He was just a fun player to watch in college. Maybe he doesn't work out in the NFL because this is another guy that I'm not really hearing good nor bad. I'm not really hearing anything.
Not hearing anything out of Saints camp.
The heart wants what the heart wants sometimes, and he was a fun player for me, so I went Devin Neal here.
Yeah, I think that was a great pick. Oftentimes, I was seeing him getting drafted early in this draft process at the 2.8, the 2.9, the 2.10, even up to the 2.12. This is the latest I've ever seen Neal get drafted at the 3.5. So you got fantastic value for this player. A little bit of a reach coming up here with Alec Aomanor. He gets drafted here at the 3-6 spot by T-Mick. And then right next to him is Pat Bryant, for the Denver Broncos. Between these two, which one of these two players do you like more?
They're both guys that have potential, and they're on teams with a lacking wide receiver room. So I mean, I think these two, honestly, for me, are just a coin flip. I'm not superly excited to have either one of them. But between the two, it's honestly just a coin flip. Like with these guys, I might take in one draft Bryant, and the next draft take Minor. So it just honestly, like it's just a coin flip for me to see. Both of them, like I said, decent situations with low wide receiver rooms, but both have what we think to be good quarterbacks. So I don't know, either coin flip.
In A.O. Manor, I keep seeing him drafted in the 4th round, and I've even seen him fall to waivers. So I think it was a bit of a reach. That's why I said reach. And then even Pat Bryant, I felt like he was a reach, another guy you could have probably got in the 4th round.
Man, hopefully your wife doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah, my wife drafted Pat Bryant, but good for her. I mean, she ended up getting Harvey. She got Tootin. I was like, wow, great picks. And then Pat Bryant there at the 3-7.
I thought she was going to go Taylor. I really did.
I think that would have been a little bit better. Arroyo, I think, would have been a great one too. Those two are the next two picks. But with Pat Bryant, there is some propaganda with Sean Payton. He keeps saying that he's like the Michael Thomas of the Denver Broncos.
He'll say whatever. So, he just says a bunch
of
stuff.
Yeah. So there's your news off of Mr. Pat Bryant. But at the 3-8, you have Mason Taylor. At 3-9, you got Arroyo. And then I go at the 3-10 I was trying to find like an upside player. Again, I'm looking for points in best ball. And at this time, they were talking about Rice potentially being suspended. Hollywood Brown, I think he had another hamstring or something. They got Kelsey. He's aging. He wasn't looking all that great last year. You're on an offense that's going to be competitive, an offense that is going to be playing against a higher competition with the division, with the Raiders and with the Broncos, and then also with the Chargers. And so I went with Jalen Royals here at the 3-10, and I thought that had an upside appeal.
Yeah, definitely an upside appeal. There's a couple of guys still that I would take. I have a hard time throwing darts at wide receiver, these later wide receivers anymore.
Yeah, I mean, I agree.
Like when I get into my 3rd and 4th round from here on, I've just learned a lesson going through fantasy football throughout all the years. It's like most of the time these guys just aren't working out. It's going to be rare. You get your Amon-Ra's here and there, but most of the time I just want to see either tight ends or like some running backs in this area because they get the opportunity or the time to develop. Whereas the wide receivers, it's like, sure, they might be the wide receiver 3 or 4 on their team, but that's not going to give you anything for fantasy. They might be good for the NFL team themselves, like KJ Osborne. Fine. He was good for the Vikings. He made some plays for them. He was an important piece, but for fantasy football, it was like, I don't want to play this guy. Like, I don't want to do this. So, I mean, that's just what I feel like with wide receivers. It's a good value getting them here and the potential, but I just feel like my pieces that this late, I like to use them a little bit differently, but still good value.
In best ball, I like to have a little bit more wide receivers. So if this was a more traditional draft where it's not best ball, I'm probably going with a running back here. Or even like the next pick, I think, again, it's good value. I'm seeing him drafted at the end of the 2nd round in some leagues, is Tyler Shuck for the Saints. And he's starting to get a little momentum here in camp also. And I was thinking like, maybe I can get him at the 4-2 because I figured you weren't going to go with him because you think he's a schmuck. And so I was like, okay, maybe at 4-2 I can go with Show and after Brink because I end up having the 3-12 and the 4-2. And then you at the 4-1, so I was like, oh, maybe Show will drop to the 4-2. That'll provide more value.
So yeah, Shuck goes at that 3-11. I mean, 1 year buy for 3-11, not bad. Then you want to talk about your 3-12?
Yeah, I got 312 and the 4-2, and those are my final picks. And I'm trying to trade back into the fourth round too because there's still a lot of value that I like. I was between Giddens, who I ended up drafting here at the 312. He's the second running back on the Colts. Well, maybe we'll see. Tyler Goodson's still there, but I remember seeing Goodson just 2 years ago completely poop the bed and keep the Colts out of the playoffs.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks
Yeah,
for
well, he's a Hawkeye too, so I did like Goodson, but I watched him a little bit more last year, and he just isn't the guy.
yeah.
And Giddens, he's an all-purpose back, and JT, he just can't stay healthy. So I went with Giddens 312. So I like that. But I was between Giddens, I was between Hunter. We'll see who you pick. He was still on the board. Brooks, I think he's interesting again, potentially being the second running back with Cincinnati, and I like Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, so I'm like, oh, when can I get him? But I went with Giddens here at 312, leaving you with your 4-1 decision.
This was an easy decision for me. Ever since the news broke about Quinshon Judkins, Dylan Sampson's been climbing up the boards because there's opportunity. Nothing but opportunity ahead of him. They still have Jerome Ford there who they like, but Sampson's been playing in the slot too, wide receiver, so there's some PPR upside. Getting him at the 4-1, I was ecstatic to see him fall to me here. Like I said, I like to take shots on these running backs later rounds. People liked him out of Tennessee. They have a weird offense, so it's hard to trust, but if he gets some PPR upside and Judkins questionable up in the air, I mean, who knows? I like just taking a shot on him and getting there at the 401.
And then again, I go 4-2. I'm between Hunter, Brooks, and Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. And I ultimately went with Jarquez Hunter. And it kind of went back to draft capital, went back to explosive plays. Brooks is kind of a plotter. Krosky Merritt, he can definitely have that explosive plays, but it's a little bit more crowded room with, the couple backs that are there with Washington. Again, the 7th round draft capital. I heard just 2 days before, it's like 7th round draft capital running backs over like the last 10 to 15 years is only like a 2% hit rate. So I was like, oh, I don't really like that. So I went with Hunter at the 4-2. I ended up putting up a poll on Twitter X at FF Healers, and I was like, who would you have rather picked, Hunter or Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt? And last I checked, it was pretty close, but it had a little bit of an edge, like a 55% to 45% Hunter over Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt. And if you're kind of tired and you don't know how to pronounce Ja'Cory Krosky's name, and you're like, oh, it's kind of a mouthful, he also goes by the name Bill. Bill is his nickname. So the coaches, the teammates, they're all calling him Bill. So if you hear us on the program and you're like, oh, what's Bill up to? That's Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt.
My goodness. Yeah, I mean, I would have picked someone different, but that's with the hindsight of Kyron Williams getting a 3 year.
Kyron Williams he didn't get the contract at that time.
That is with the hindsight. I liked the pick when you made it, and now I don't. But we'll speed through the rest of this because neither one of us have any more picks. So Jalen Knoll goes next. The 4-4, Ollie Gordon goes, which I like. I thought Ollie Gordon I loved him.
I thought you were I thought it was going to be a decision to be made.
I wanted, the heart wanted Gordon. The mind said Sampson, honestly. The heart wanted Gordon, though. Truly, I thought he's my other Devin Neal of this draft class. He's just a fun guy I liked and watched. So 4-5, though, Will Howard. Then
Can we stop here for 1 second with Will Howard? So Will Howard gets drafted here at 4-5. I know for a fact that the 4-6 person wanted Will Howard, and the 4-7 person, my wife, wanted Will Howard. She had made a comment about how she wanted Will Howard. And so I thought that was really interesting. And if you go back to just last week's pod, I was breaking down the AFC and the drops. And I made a comment that I just don't understand what the appeal is with Will Howard. I gave the example of what I heard and what I seen at the combine with how people were applauding him even when he was making mistakes because the Michigan fans were applauding him. And then it was misinterpreted as, oh, wow, people really like Will Howard. Well, he ends up getting drafted by Pittsburgh late on day 3. And now, Colten, he has a small fracture in his throwing hand and is going to be out and not available in training camp. And so what does that do for you and your Will Howard?
I didn't like him prior.
Right. I didn't understand the appeal here. And then here I am hearing that 3 teams in a row are just like Will Howard, Will Howard. And I guess if you want that dart there in the middle of the 4th, I really can't be that disappointed in you. But come on, Will Howard. Appeal's not there for me. But
Anyway.
You can continue to break down the rest of this draft. And the reason I didn't go also with Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt is like he only has to get past one guy, and I know that he'll go to waivers. And that one guy, we'll see what happens.
Well, we'll see. 4'6", Donta Thornton, 4'7", his Shamir Dice.
Hi, Shamir.
Shamir.
Hi, Shamir. Oh, Georgie.
Then we got
Taj
Brooks at the 4'8". And sorry, he did not fall to you on the waivers at the 4'9".
I knew exactly who was going to take him too. The 4'9".
Krosky,
Favre.
Bill's off the board.
Bill gets taken.
Bill Nye the Science
Guy.
It's going to be his new quote. You got to get the drop.
Bill Nye the Science Guy. We'll have to. It's coming.
Then we got Trevor Etienne going at the 4'10", Isaac Tesla 4'11", and then Kyle Manungi at the 4'12" to finish out our draft. I mean, throwing darts at those running backs at the end, I love to see it. Tesla showed some potential for the Lions the other night, but he looked good. But it's another one of those guys that I'm just like, I don't know what the value will ever be of him being a wide receiver 3 or 4. That's just my big thing. But to those that threw darts at those running backs, you got some potential in those guys. So
this draft ended after the Detroit Lions game had completed for the preseason, the Hall of Fame game.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed some flashes with Tesla in that game. And then if you go back to the combine, it was only Tesla and Jalen Lane that ended up having the greens in all the athletic testing that was performed. They did every athletic test and they were all in the green. They exceeded expectations. Tesla gets the Lions, they traded up to get Tesla in the 3rd round. And so I think especially here at the back end of the 4th round in a best ball, I thought it was a really good pick. And Kyle Manungi, and I'll say it once and I'll say it again, I thought Big EC had an excellent draft from start to finish. He drafts Kyle Manungi. Granted, Bears fan, going with a Bears running back, but Kyle Manungi is getting some steam right now. And Roshan Johnson is again injured. He has a foot problem right now. So Kyle Manungi is getting the snaps, and he could definitely be an RB2 for the Bears.
It's definitely a possibility. I mean, like I said, taking the shot, on these running backs, because there's a clearer, easier path for running backs to have fantasy relevance when it's this late. So definitely a good draft. I felt great leaving this draft, honestly. Felt like I got a lot of value pieces, a lot of pieces that'll help this rebuild, and even if they're not on my team long term, if they get their chances and I have a chance to flip it for something more, Dylan Sampson gets his chance, blows up a couple games, I flip him for like a second or something. That's still value added to my team for down the road. So in the rebuild, don't always think, I need to get wide receivers on my team, so I'm scooping up these late round wide receivers in case one of them hits. You're still just looking for the value and the best player available on the board, and you can move pieces around. That's the beauty of Dynasty, is moving pieces around for the value. Just scoop up the value where you can and move for what you need, so.
Who's going to pop faster, a running back or a wide receiver? An injury to a team, a running back is going to get the go-ahead a lot faster, and there's a lot easier transition to being even we've seen some really poor athletic testing running backs do really well for the short stints that they get the go ahead, and they're flippable. Flip. The rookie wide receivers, they take a lot of time to develop, and they're a little bit harder to move.
Yeah. Overall, though, it was a great draft.
I thought everybody did an excellent job with their draft picks. Again, we had a couple reaches in there, but again, that was middle of the third round. Like,
Yeah.
you're getting your guys at that point.
Absolutely.
That takes us to the end of this Wizarding World Dynasty draft. Continue to stay tuned. We'll give you updates about the fantasy leagues as they go ahead, and we hope you had a magical experience on this ride. That is the Fantasy Football Healers program.
I've got just one last thing. Will Shipley with the 40-yard house. Running back 2 season loading. You weren't wrong. You were just a year late, Dustin. But hey, we are the Fantasy Football Healers. Just tune in and you'll find out about people. Just 1 year later is all they needed.
Got to keep your ears to the ground and see what happens there, Colten.
Great draft. We are out, though. Salud.
You're a wizard, Harry.